that was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue society.
Dianne Andrews in black and white. Welcome to Dianne Andrews in black and white, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thank you for joining us in our 3 million homes in Louisiana and Mississippi. We appreciate your viewership, whether it's on TV, whether it's one of our subscriptions, or whether you were streaming on Louisiana Film Channel app. You'll see on the screen all the networks that we're in. But we are in 50 parishes in Louisiana and 4 counties in Mississippi. So thanks again for joining. Today, as you know, if you've kept up with Dianne Andrews for the last 6 years, I try to do the prevalent issues of today and shine a light and try to tell the truth saying of what's out there. Many people talk about Cuba's healthcare system as one of the best in the world. We're going to talk about that today. I did a show 6 years ago here in Baton Rouge with a businessman, very prosperous, who had left Cuba 25 years before that. So that would be 31 years ago he left Cuba. At that time, it was mandatory to go into the military at 15 to 23. There are 11.3 million people in Cuba today. The island is only 93 miles from the tip of Florida. So they are like our neighbor, but they are not our friend. So come on back to Dianne Andrews. I have a person here. We're going to talk a little bit about what was 31 years ago, and we're going to talk about what is today. This is a very brave man who has come here he is seeking asylum, and he does have asylum 2 years ago, escaping by almost being killed in Cuba for wanting freedom for his people and for the country of Cuba. Come back and hear this man's story. Come back to Dianne Andrews in Black.
How do you see the world?
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, we know that changing how you see things can turn them into everyday miracles!
Like riding my bike.
Breaking boards! Hugging my mom!
Every day for over 90 years, Shriners Hospitals for Children has been sending love to the rescue, regardless of a family's ability to pay.
If you know a child we can help, call or go online now.
Excuse me, are you Dianne Andrews?
Yes, I am.
I'm Darius. I'm here to attend your leadership speech.
Oh, thank you for coming. That's wonderful. What are you majoring in?
Construction management.
I tell you then, this leadership management speech that I'm going to do will do you a lot of good.
Well, I always watch your show.
Oh, good. I'm on television and YouTube. I appreciate you watching. Are you headed to the event right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Come on, let's walk together and I can teach you and tell you some things about leadership and management.
Perfect.
Come on, let's go. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in black and white. As you see me sitting here, you also see Alexandra de la Rosa from Cuba.
Yes,
This will be a different show than I've ever done. Alex does not speak English that well. Alexandra came from Cuba 2 years ago. He escaped from Cuba through Central America and came through the Mexican border. His story is horrific of what he has seen, of sex trafficking, drug trafficking, people who hate America, who are coming here because it is so easy at times to get through the border. And 2 years ago was tougher than it is today. 1.5 million people have come through the border in 8 months since this new administration has come to power. That is the most in any time in American history. And fentanyl is coming through our borders that is killing people at 100 times more strength than morphine does. So we're in deep trouble here in America, but it is still, as I say all the time, the best place in the world to live. And the key is we have to fight for it. And that's why this brave man is here talking about Cuba. Cuba is not a socialist country. The name of Cuba's party is the Communist Cuban Party. It is communism. I'm going to give you a brief history because we're going to do 2 to 3 shows tonight. So we'll be talking to you for a while. In 1898, the Spanish-American War, which America won, Spain owned Cuba. By 1902, America was controlling a lot of Cuba, but we did not really, it was not our territory, I don't think. But we do have Guantanamo Bay, where the prisoner of war prisoners are kept, down in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. That is in Cuba. And that was part of the treaty with Cuba. Batista was the president in 1959. And that's when Fidel Castro took over Cuba through a revolution. Russia backed this. This is when Russia was a USSR and were a communist country. Marxism started in Russia by a person named Karl Marx. And what I'm going to briefly say to you is everything owned by the state. I have traveled to 6 continents. I was an executive with IBM, and I've owned healthcare. And my history doesn't matter, but I have done a lot of things. And this is the best country in the world, and it is one of the last places of freedom in America. Thanks for being with us, Alex. Thanks for having the bravery to come and to talk about this. And for people thinking he's getting paid, it is not true. I have been doing this show for 6 years because I'm an issues person. My undergrad degree is mathematics, and 2 + 2 has to equal 4, and some things going on in the world don't equal 4 to me. So then I try to investigate them. I have no money to pay people big money to come on this show. People come because they know I seek truth, and they're here to tell truth. So he lives in Miami. He flew in today, and he is staying with a friend of his, and he is not paid. And this is not propaganda. He's going to tell you about his true life as a story I did 6 years ago with Ricky's creative jewelry owner, Ricky. And he talked about why he left Cuba. And we're going to hear why this man with a wife and 2 children who he had to leave behind because they threatened to kill him. He's going to tell us the true life of living in Cuba. Can you tell us, for the 2 years that you've been here on asylum, what you think of the life in America versus life in Cuba?
Primeramente, le agradezco a usted por estar en este programa. Le envío un saludo al pueblo americano y le agradezco la oportunidad de vivir en un país como este. La diferencia de la vida en América con respecto a Cuba es abismal.
And that means because there is no freedom in Cuba? Is that one reason? No freedom for people to come and go, work as you want to. The government owns mostly everything still in Cuba.
El gobierno centraliza a todos los poderes y priva de libertad y derecho a todo su pueblo.
No freedom.
Ellos piensan por ti, te dicen cómo sentir. Lemas, frases, ideología controlan tu vida desde la niñez.
I have a person here. You will not see her, you will hear her. She is going to interpret for me and for him to me. So you will hear a third voice, but you will only see 2 people. How do they brainwash you? How do they, as a child, teach you how to think? Because there is something going on called critical race theory right now in the United States, where people believe that children are being brainwashed to fight against each other by color. So how do they teach you as a child to be brainwashed? What do they do?
La tiranía tiene un sistema educativo que adoctrina desde la niñez.
Can you see American TV there? Can you see any of our shows?
De manera furtiva o ilegal, algunos cubanos tienen posibilidad de bajar de internet información sobre cómo se vive en América.
On the internet, you can watch things.
You can watch things in the internet, but
sneaky. Oh, not open. And if they find out that you're watching certain things, will they come to your house? And or if you speak against the government, I understand they will put you in jail. Is that still true?
Te pueden pasar muchas cosas. Puedes ser multado, ir a prisión, o incluso, depende de la gravedad, podrías hasta morir.
It depends. You can give you a
Fine you
fine.
money?
Yeah.
Money. They tried to put him in jail and tried to kill him because of him fighting for freedom, correct?
Yo desde mi adolescencia tenía amigos periodistas y opositores con los cuales compartía información.
Since he was in his teenage years, he had friends that were journalism, and he's a thinker, and for his freedom, he tried to talk about what wasn't right.
What happened to his friend?
Así, algunos de esos amigos viven en el extranjero, España, los Estados Unidos.
Some of his friends just fled the country. Some live in Spain.
Tuvieron que irse por la represión y el temor a ser encarcelados o asesinados.
Now, you were...
En el momento que a mí me amenazan de muerte, fue a razón de mis opiniones en contra de una falsa reforma a la Constitución de Cuba.
When he was put in jail, it was because he was against his beliefs.
Do you believe in God?
Creo en Dios con toda la fuerza de mi alma. Lo más importante para mí es Dios, la familia y el trabajo.
He believes in God with all of his soul and in the family.
Do you attend church? Are you Catholic? What religion? Are you Catholic?
¿De qué religión eres?
Soy de la iglesia evangélica, pero profeso un gran respeto a toda clase de religión.
He goes to an evangelist church, but he has great respect for all denominations.
What kind of religions do they have in Cuba? Is it any religion, all religions, or just a few?
Aparentemente, el gobierno garantiza la libertad religiosa, pero es completamente falso.
Actually, the government, ¿qué religión es?
Aparentemente, el gobierno permite la libertad religiosa, según sus leyes, pero es completamente falso.
Apparently, they do accept churches, but that's not true.
They do allow churches?
They pretend.
They pretend. So, did you grow up going to church in Cuba?
En este momento, después de tantos años de represión del cristianismo, con la visita del Papa, el cristianismo fue de cierto modo liberado, soportado, pero en el fondo no admitido.
Esa no fue la pregunta. Que si ibas a la iglesia cuando eras niño.
No, durante mi adolescencia fue cuando comencé.
He did not go to church when he was a child. He went to church as he became in his adolescence.
In Cuba?
Yes.
En Cuba, en los primeros años de la revolución, a los cristianos, homosexuales, rockeros, los encarcelaban.
Many years ago in Cuba, if you were gay, if you were Christian, and you were of their party, you will be incarcerated.
Incarcerated?
Yes.
They would lock you in jail and then kill you?
¿Te encarcelaban y te mataban?
Los cristianos sufrían prisión, le quitaban sus carreras universitarias. Era un acoso constante por su manera distinta de pensar.
Christians will be put in jail and sometimes bullied.
And gay people, they put them in jail also. Mm-hmm. What about now?
¿Y ahora?
Después de la visita del Papa y tantas denuncias internacionales por la oposición cubana, ellos han permitido una apertura religiosa, pero muy controlada.
After the visit of the Pope, they have allowed it, but controlled.
So that's just Catholic religion?
Yes.
So you have churches with crosses on them in Cuba?
¿Tienen iglesias con cruces?
Sí, el pueblo cubano es un pueblo culturalmente muy rico. Practican muchas religiones, aunque el gobierno la estuvo prohibiendo en el principio de su revolución. No pudieron con ese fervor religioso.
Cubans is very rich in culture and in religions.
Yeah,
So
it used to be the playground, like Las Vegas. Havana is known for great music, great festivals, great. Is Havana has the city itself? Is it deteriorated and raggedy now, or?
Que si La Habana está deteriorada y hecha a perder.
Bueno, antes que llegara la revolución socialista de los Castro, era la 7ª ciudad más hermosa del mundo y tenía un prestigio internacional conocido. En estos momentos está completamente destruida.
Before the revolution, it was the 7th most beautiful city in the world.
People loved Havana.
But now practically it's destroyed and falling apart. The wonderful, beautiful buildings.
Because they don't put money back into the cities, right?
El gobierno hace crecer sus arcas a través de narcotráfico, negocios con médicos.
They grow by, they make money with drugs, cartels hidden.
Oh, big drug cartel in Cuba. I didn't know.
Está demostrado internacionalmente que es una narcodictadura.
But the money goes to the government. In Cuba, you have the very rich and the very poor. In America, you have a middle class. Communism, you have no middle class.
Sí. El comunismo destruyó la clase media cubana.
But you have to work still and make little money, right? You still work. You had a carpentry shop, right?
Siempre tienes que trabajar para obtener dinero.
Sí. Lamentablemente, en Cuba no se vive de salario. La gente se le ingenia para sobrevivir y ahora le explico cómo lo hacen.
In Cuba, you do work, but then you have to be very creative to be able to to have enough money.
I read that everybody's got a side job, trying to find some little business to make more money to live, because there, even a medical doctor only makes $25 to $40 a month. Is that correct?
En el momento que salí de Cuba era así.
He left Cuba, it was that way.
Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White after this break, please, and hear more of the interesting story. I bet there are things you didn't know that you're learning today about Cuba. Welcome back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White after our break. Thank you for coming back. And I know you're learning a lot, because I did a show, as I had said, 6 years ago, and certain things have changed. And I was wondering, since Biden opened up Cuba for more, they took some of the embargoes off that had been on since 1959 under John F. Kennedy, our president. How much better is Cuba today? Although he's not old enough to know, but he would know. Did things change 7 years ago? Have they gotten better since the embargo? Or is things just they made them look better for tourists? Because I have seen how tourists live in Cuba, and that's not how people live in Cuba.
¿Han mejorado las cosas desde el embargo?
Se referirá a la apertura con Obama, ¿no?
Sí.
Bueno, en realidad la apertura de Obama lo que facilitó es que el gobierno, sus aliados, sus hijos, se enriquecieran creando negocios privados con plenas libertades económicas.
The only difference is, since the embargo, what happened is the richer got
richer.
The
government made more money.
Right. And the poor just got worse.
Because again, people in America, there was a debate, and that's why I did the show with Ricky's Creative Jewelry 6 years ago, and he did not want the embargo lifted because he knew the citizens get no more money. It's all just money back again for the government to have more control.
Esa es la razón por la que somos esclavos. El gobierno tiene todo el control, tenemos comida, medicina, derecho a la libertad y somos gobernados por medio de la fuerza, basado en el miedo, en el terror.
That's the reason Cubans are slaves. We are slaves.
As a regular person, if a doctor, now you were smart enough to be accepted in medical school. The person I did 6 years ago wanted to be a doctor and was smart enough too, Ricky, that came here. But they told him he could only be a mechanical engineer after at 15 then you had to go to the military. It is mandatory. And now I think he said it's 18, it's mandatory to go to the military. Every man has to go in Cuba, and for women it's volunteer to go in Cuba. Where America now is all volunteer. You go if you want to go. But people who don't want their children to go to military need to listen at this because there will be no choice in a communist country. So why did you not go to medical school?
¿Por qué no seguiste tu carrera de medicina?
En realidad, yo fui el mejor estudiante de un técnico de electricidad industrial, pero por mis opiniones contrarias al régimen, ellos me quitaron la posibilidad de estudiar la carrera de ingeniería.
He was the best in his class. ¿De cuántos estudiantes?
Eran 4 grupos de 50, unos quizás 200, 300, porque a cuarto año no llegó mucho.
He was the best out of like 400.
Wow. This was
Number
in high
one.
school or in the first 4 years of college or high school?
Serían los primeros 4 años de college, de
Sí,
aquí, de universidad.
es un colegio que dura 4 años, es un tecnológico. Al principio son 1000 estudiantes, pero al final de la carrera llegan 300, 400, no llegan los 1000.
At the beginning, it's like 1,000 students, but at the end, about 400. And
600 dropped out.
And then
They
he
failed.
was, out of the 400, he was
Number one, top.
Yes,
Uno.
top.
Uno best. Uno mucho. Yeah.
En otras ocasiones traté de insertarme en cualquier carrera universitaria, por ejemplo medicina, y ellos me obstaculizaron.
They would have paid for you to be a doctor. One thing I want the audience to know is in a communist state like Cuba, and Russia went from communism. They're not communist anymore, but they're still kind of I guess, autocratic system. But they went, every place who had communism failed, except China, which is 1.5 billion people. India was socialist, 1.5 billion people. And they turned to democracy. Venezuela was democracy 21 years ago. And now they are communist. And they are begging in the streets. They were the 5th richest country in the world. People need to know the facts. And I always tell people, look it up, everything I say. There was a bus driver who became the president of Venezuela. Now, I think Maduro, no, the first guy was a peasant. Maduro, who is worth billions of dollars today, was a bus driver in Venezuela. They still have the #1 oil reserves in the world in Venezuela. And people are coming through our borders to get here from Venezuela. People don't know this, but Russia's broke. In fact, Biden just gave them a big advantage about 3 months ago. He stopped our Keystone pipeline, bringing oil to America from Canada. But Nord Stream 2 in Russia brings oil to Europe. America is the #1 oil place in the world. We have as much oil as Saudi Arabia and OPEC. That is why our gas prices are going up. The first day he signed an executive order to cut 1/3 of the drilling for oil in America. And people, look it up. Under Donald Trump, we were #1 in exporting oil in the world under the last 2 years of Donald Trump. He opened up AMWA, we drill in Texas, we have oil in Alaska, we have oil in Oklahoma, we have oil, America and Nigeria, probably 2 of the richest natural resource countries in the world. And for him to cut out, we can talk about OPEC all you want. Yeah, that's the Saudi Arabia, Middle Eastern people. But before that, what were our gas prices? And what are they today? And they're going to continue to go up with inflation. Who is helping support Cuba today. And that may be why Obama Biden opened it up, because now the government has more money in their coffers than they had 10 years ago. Is China supporting them? Because Russia was broke. Russia has oil, and Russia has uranium and nuclear power. But they didn't have a lot of money. China is rich. But Russia was broke. But we just gave them about $50 billion. I think the oil going from Russia to Germany, I think that's over like $50 billion a month or so much a month. And that number, I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up. But that brought them a lot of money into Nord Stream 2 is the name of the pipeline that Russia built. It was 90% finished when Obama Biden ended their term. It had about 10% left. Donald Trump stopped it, and Joe Biden gave it back to Russia. So we need to really look and listen. It sounds good about, okay, everything's going to be free. But even Ricky, when I did his show 6 years ago, he was going to be able to go to college free, but only in what the state needed, the Communist Party needed. They didn't need doctors. They needed a certain other skill, which was mechanical engineering, and he wanted to be an architect or a doctor. But you can't major in what you want. Don't young people especially take for granted the freedoms in this country, because there's no place like it in the world. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White next week and see the second in the truth of what is going on in Cuba. And look at what's going on in America, and let's see if you see any similarities right now in this country versus what happened to Cuba. And if it did, I tell you, vote, vote, vote out. Anybody who's talking about democratic socialism or giving people money to stay at home, and that if you're black, you can't make it. Hey, there was a cotton field behind my house. And I was teasing with a Dr. Strand that I did a show with 2 weeks ago, the Commissioner of Agriculture. I said, I'm lucky I don't have cancer. I used to be playing out in the back. I mean, I wasn't poor, but I definitely wasn't rich, and neither one of my parents were college educated. They were brilliant, though. I got my photographic memory from my mother. So, but you can be anything you want in this country, but don't think you're a victim. We all have a lot to go through. My first year in college, my daddy died the next month. My mother got hit by a car, and she didn't walk for 7 years. So come on back next week to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and realize you can go get it, whatever it is for you. Come back to us next week.